Jonathan, you and I have been doing this for a couple of years now. I don't know about you, but personally, when it comes to Central's home district schedule, this is the best year I think we've ever had.
There's a lot of things Steve Neymark does well from the mound, but the thing he does best is hit his spots.
Jonathan, the postseason is up and running here at Meyer Field. For a second consecutive year, Angelo State softball gets to host the Lone Star Conference, mind you, single elimination tournament. Every ASU sport is streaking. Softball's on a 15-game tear. Women's basketball has won 5 in a row, and even the men have won back-to-back contests. ASU baseball, 9 in a row. Let's try and make it 10 against Eastern New Mexico. Here's Kevin Brooks sharing a laugh with the umps. He's a funny guy. Matt Shannon facing the first batter of the game. Umpire says a strikeout, and the crowd agrees as well. That was one of 11 strikeouts for Shannon on the evening. A lot of unknowns about this team, but as the week progresses, going into next week, you'll find out way more about them as we dive further into who the Spartans are, but we know what Central is right now, district champions for a 5th straight year. The Bells of the softball diamond were unfortunately not available to talk today after winning a 23rd straight game, and that is because they were going for 24 in San Antonio. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign. A little bit of foreshadowing. Yeah, that's because they lost. Their streak is over. I really thought with the conditions being so wet and just gross, I didn't think they'd be throwing the ball so much. Combined between these two teams, 8 consecutive district championships and a 21-1 record between the two squads. First and foremost, there was a rumor earlier in the week that they had been sold out for this game, but close to what they were 2 years ago, but that's not true. He's 7 feet tall, but what's cool about him and almost just freakish, his wingspan. They showed a graphic tonight. From here to here, from tip of the middle finger to tip of the other middle finger, 7'9".
If you've seen any Angelo State men's basketball game in the past 3 years, you've seen number 23 Omari Gudul hit jumpers, snuff out opponents' shot attempts, run up and down the court like his life depended on it. Now that's just an expression used in the sports world, but nearly 20 years ago, that's exactly what he had to do. Omari was born on May 18, 1994 in the city of Bukavu in the country known at that time as Zaire. The country was run by a dictator named Mobutu Sese Seko. 2 years later, a man named Laurent Kabila, notorious for his child soldiers, led a rebellion which turned into the First Congo War, which lasted a year. In 1997, Mobutu fled the country. The conflict was over, and the Democratic Republic of Congo was born. But, unfortunately, Kabila brought little true change. The rebel leader alienated his allies, which sparked the beginning of the deadliest conflict since World War II, the Second Congo War.
I can remember sometime we had to run away from the town so that we can be safe. That's some memories of just me and my family going to another town to trying to be safe and trying to be away from the war.
The war Omari was referring to came in the form of the brutal, oppressive rebel group called the Rally for Congolese Democracy, RCD for short, which was led by Colonel Jules Mutabusi, a man who allowed acts of brutality against populations he and his troops came across. In 1998, he had his sights set on Omari's hometown of Bukavu.
So he came in town, and he had the town for 2 weeks, and I remember during that time, it wasn't really safe for us to stay in town, so we decided, my dad decided that we needed to leave. My older brother just came and picked me up and said, man, we're leaving, and I just followed the group. I didn't really understand what was going on.
Omari and his family, which included his parents, 5 brothers, and 6 sisters, got on a boat and traversed their way across Lake Kivu to Goma, more than 100 miles away in the dead of night to escape Mutabusi. But this was just one instance. There were several other times Omari had to flee with his family in the middle of the night to escape the terrors of war. In 2003, the war ended, but by that time Omari had seen his fair share of the damages of warfare. Then when he turned 14, he moved to the capital of Kinshasa to live with his mother. Not long after, he attended high school at the Creighton Laser Hill Academy in Kenya, where he picked up the sport of basketball and caught the eye of a coach named Tony Molden, who also doubled as an African missionary. He introduced him to a Texas basketball coach named Larry Brown.
He had a camp for 3 days in Nairobi. I got invited to the camp, and from there he selected me and wanted me to come play for him at Rancho Junior College.
But Coach Molden was talking about moving Omari out to Texas for a sport he just started to play. But the Bukavu native took a leap of faith. And just like that, Omari left his war-torn home continent for a basketball life in America. For KLST Sports, I'm Andrew Nepsund. If Angelo State big man Omari Gudul had never taken a leap of faith back in high school in Kenya, this
and throws it down. Oh my goodness, he threw it down over Texas.
Would have never happened. After high school, Omari agreed to play collegiate basketball for a coach named Larry Brown. No, not the SMU one, but the Ranger Junior College one. Omari arrived by plane in what we call Dallas, but he just called it beautiful. But it was a different story when he started the trek to where he'd be going to school.
All I saw was just like lane. Then when we got to Rangers, it was a little bit disappointing because when I heard I'm going to college in the U.S., I thought it was going to be like buildings and stuff. And then we got to Ranger, it's just, Ranger Junior College, it was just like a little small college, man.
But luckily for Omari, he wasn't at Ranger Junior College for too long. That same year, two great basketball minds decided to pay him a visit from a certain Division II university in San Angelo.
Coach Boone and Chris Beard, they used to come to our games and stuff. Then after the season, they just came talk to me and wanted me to come.
I mean, everybody's always going to look for size. Omari obviously had it. But number two, his character. I mean, you could just tell from the first time you shook his hand, he looked you in the eye, and you knew that, you could count on him day in and day out.
But when first recruiting Omari 3 years ago, then head coach Chris Beard, who's now at Arkansas Little Rock, and current head coach Cinco Boone made one thing very clear to him if he decided to accept their offer.
First, you need to know that you come in because you're going to be first a student, then an athlete. So you come in to get a degree, then play basketball. And I really like the idea.
And it turns out he wasn't the only Omari that approved of what the Angelo State coaches were saying. His uncle, Omari Gudul, whom he was named after, played a big role in the forward's life growing up in Africa and said the world is more than playing ball.
He really wanted me to stay in school because he told me that one day school gonna pay off and I can play basketball, but I'm gonna get to a point where basketball, I can't play no more.
Unfortunately, exactly 3 weeks ago, the elder Omari Gudul passed away at the age of 63. And the next day, the younger Omari had to face a difficult Tarleton State team for a crucial conference game. He could have sat the game out for obvious reasons, but he didn't. And he ended up having a huge impact as he owned the paint on defense, coming up with 3 enormous blocks while putting in 14 points on the offensive end. And the majority of this coming in the second half, after sitting out most of the first with foul trouble. This game was one for the ages, and in the end, the Rams came out on top in double overtime, 87-86.
I mean, it really seemed like you played from the outside looking in inspired. Do you agree or disagree?
I would agree, yeah. I mean, I wanted to honor him and just give it all and play for him.
For KLST Sports, I'm Andrew Nepsund.
And now for sports with sports director Jonathan Thomas.
Filling in for Jonathan Thomas, this is Andrew Nepsund. Here's the deal. There's 2 weeks to go in the high school baseball season, and Lakeview still has a shot to make the playoffs, but they pretty much have to win out. However, it does help the team they have to pass up in the district standings is their opponent tonight, as well as on Friday. Good opportunity. Lakeview hosting Lubbock, Monterey. We get in top 6. Lakeview down 5. Kaylor Danovic sends it to deep center for the Plainsmen. Drops down, rolls all the way to the wall. That brings in a run, and Danovic is in with a stand-up triple. 8-2 Monterey. Now, bottom 6, 10-2 now. 2 outs, base loaded. Ian Flores draws the walk to force in a run for Lakeview, and they cut the deficit to 10-3. Top 7, Monterey just kept pouring on. Braden Alexander hits one to the gap. There's no one in sight. That's good for an RBI triple, and Alexander would come home on a pass ball to make it 14-3 Monterey. Lakeview falls 14-4. And with the loss, the Chiefs are now officially eliminated from playoff contention. We're halfway through April, and not once has Angelo State baseball played a game at Foster Field for the entirety of the month. But all that changes come this Friday. The Rams return home after losing 3 of 4 on the road to Texas A&M Kingsville and then resting up this past week. Their first game in a fortnight comes against a team they've already swept before, Eastern New Mexico. But unlike last time, this 4-game set will actually count toward the Rams and Greyhounds conference marks. And in preparing for this series, you look at some of the numbers, like, for instance, both teams hit in the excess of 300 from the plate. But here's something else that stood out. The two teams are 1 and 2 in stolen bases in the Lone Star Conference. Seems like that's going to be a big part of the series because numbers don't lie. Or do they?
Well, they won't run against us. They won't be able to. If you want to go look at, I mean, they stole 85 bases against Southwest Assemblies of the Blind. Those numbers aren't real. They'll try to run a little bit, but they won't be able to. And then hopefully we'll be able to run.
And Kevin Brooks is pretty much right. In the 4 games they played against each other back in early March, the Greyhounds were able to steal just 2 bases. Look at the standings. West Texas A&M still hasn't lost an official game in Lone Star Conference play. They're sitting pretty to win this whole thing, but remember, there's still 3 weekends to go before the season's over. As you see, ASU and Texas A&M, Kingsville right now tied for that 3 spot, but Kingsville has a tiebreaker because they just beat ASU in a 4-game set. Okay, more. Where's Eastern New Mexico? They're at the number 6 spot in the Lone Star Conference. That's next to last. 3-13 in the LSC, 17-19 overall. And the Rams' first pitch against Eastern New Mexico set for 6:30 p.m. Friday. Sticking with Angelo State, the Janelle Center hosted the annual Hollins Award Banquet. The awards are voted on by Angelo State student athletes and teammates. One individual is honored from each sports team, and for both the men and women. After that, the 4 big awards are handed out. And here are the winners for those awards. Taking home the Kathleen Brasfield Female Athlete of the Year is Bell's track and field star Kami Norton. The Phil George Male Athlete of the Year goes to another track and field athlete, Harry Maslin. The Athletic Academic Excellence Award was given to Jacob Reed, another track and field player. For the ladies, the Academic Excellence Award goes to Miss Norton. Wreck and shop as they should.
Cleaning up. That'll do it for us now. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Good night.
Number 15, Jerry Lee.